Chan Sung-jung, better known as the Korean Zombie, is one of the most exciting fighters in MMA today. With his punching power and constant forward movement, he possesses an entertaining style that everyone, from casuals to hardcore fans, can appreciate. This willingness to take one to give one has provided us with classic fights over the years. After his first title fight in 2013, he spent almost 4 years away from the sport due to a combination of injuries and his mandatory military duties. But as it turned out, his time away actually allowed for him to heal and improve on some of his skills. You can never accuse the Korean Zombie of backing down from a fight, but while he is an aggressive fighter, someone who will constantly walk forward and force their opponents to back up, he has developed into a skilled counterpuncher. Of his 7 wins in the UFC, 4 have come by knockout. All of those knockouts are a result of his response or interception to his opponent's offense. This plays hand in hand with his aggressive style. Zombie comes forward and throws strikes, his opponents react, and then he takes advantage of any openings that they leave in the process. His fights with Renato Moicano and Dennis Bermudez are perfect examples of this. Dennis Bermudez, not unlike the Korean Zombie, was a fighter who didn't mind fighting fire with fire. Setting a fast pace early, Bermudez was able to control the center of the cage and dictate the fight. But, as the fight wore on, Zombie was able to control the pace by clinching with him and landing his counters. Zombie used this to retake the center of the cage, walk Bermudez down, and find the finish. Against Moicano, a much taller fighter who utilizes his reach well, Zombie spent the early portion of the fight throwing non-committal strikes. He'd throw them out and then immediately back up. He wasn't trying to knock Moicano out with one punch. The purpose was to draw out a reaction from Moicano. Even if all of this doesn't result in a knockout, it allows for the Korean Zombie to control the fight. He uses his power and pressure to break opponents, or create other avenues for him to explore. He uses his size as a way to fight long when he needs to. This creates more space for his opponents to cover, in order to land their strikes. That process of trying to close the gap is where Zombie tends to find his openings. When we think of the Korean Zombie, we often imagine a fighter who likes to stay on his feet and strike. This aggressive style on the feet is supported by his improved wrestling. This has added another layer to his game. With less concerns over being taken down, he can more comfortably strike on the feet. Off of his back, he's as aggressive as he is on the feet. Against black belts, he's never been afraid to throw up arm bars and triangle chokes. He's constantly threatening opponents from his guard. From top position, his positional awareness, whether he's in or past guard, has allowed him to secure wins in moments where his opponents have had opportunities to escape and recover. This also allows him to understand when he can create space and strike from the top. He also recognizes small openings where he can quickly move into submissions. In his most recent fight against Dan Ige, a skilled grappler himself, the Korean Zombie showcased a different approach to the fight. In a much more patient performance, Zombie was more willing to sit back and box Ige on the feet, working behind his lead hand as Ige would try to come forward and pressure him. This allowed Ige to control the center of the cage, but also meant that Zombie didn't have to do the work of drawing him in. Zombie showcased a heavy grappling approach in this fight, using his boxing to set up takedowns when needed. When Ige would get aggressive on the feet, Zombie would look to counter with either a punch or takedown. Once on the ground, Zombie was always a step ahead of Ige as he looked to pressure Ige from the top to pass guard and improve his position, or drop punches to score points and do damage. In the case of a scramble, Zombie would often look to take Ige's back and threaten a rear naked choke. One of the most impressive things about the Korean Zombie is his ability to take a shot. This confidence in his chin has allowed him to be the come-forward fighter that we know, and has only 2 losses since coming back from his layoff. Zombie's aggressive and overcommitted style has backfired on him twice. In a fight that most people had him winning, he was likely seconds away from a decision win over Yair Rodriguez. In a moment where he could have sat back and rolled out the clock, he decided to be the aggressor. With a second left on the clock, Rodriguez was able to duck under Zombie's punch and catch him with one of the most unique elbow knockouts ever. In the second round against Brian Ortega, Zombie again decided to open up and chase down his opponent. Instead, he found himself running into a spinning back elbow. While this didn't knock him out, it hurt him badly and completely changed the course of the fight. For the remainder of the fight, Ortega's threat of the elbow counter was used to keep Zombie off of him. This allowed Ortega to pick him off with strikes for the rest of the fight. In his next fight, the Korean Zombie will be coming up on his second attempt to challenge for a UFC title. In his first title fight, over 8 years ago, Zombie met then-champion Jose Aldo. Zombie came out of the gate aggressive and pressure, probably to draw Aldo into a brawl. But Aldo, a defensively minded fighter, refused to engage. Whenever Zombie looked to close the distance, Aldo would use his footwork to create space or circle out. He never stuck around long enough for Zombie to plant his feet and land his shots. By the time Zombie would be ready to go, Aldo was already gone. When he tried to come forward and force the fight, he'd find himself eating counters and punching air. Aldo also took advantage of these openings to utilize takedowns and showcase his grappling. And while Zombie had his moments, they were far and few between. Although the fight became more competitive in the later portion, a clash from a punch exchange caused Zombie's shoulder to dislocate. Aldo noticed this and took advantage of the moment to finish him. While competitive, the fight was probably not close on the scorecards, and Zombie would have needed a late finish to take the win. The Korean Zombie's next fight will be against current champion Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski is a well-rounded fighter who once looked to use the cage as a way to ground his opponents and land strikes from the top. In recent years, his style has developed into a striking style that relies heavily on the use of feints and fakes. This allows him to provide a variety of looks to his opponents in a short amount of time. Volkanovski refers to this as scrambling the brain. This keeps his opponents guessing while he's free to start working. The heavy use of feints can also redirect his opponents, making them react to one thing while he sets up something else. In winning the title, Volkanovski displayed this against former champion Max Holloway, a fighter who uses his high pace and work rate to overwhelm his opponents. The use of feints and fakes allowed for Volkanovski to mix up his attack in order to slow down the output. This allowed him to land a variety of low kicks on Holloway. By the time it became a problem for Holloway, Volkanovski was opening up high with punches and going low with kicks. While many believe that he should have lost the rematch to Max Holloway, it's up to the Korean Zombie to be the first to officially do so in the UFC. To take the title from a champion like Volkanovski, who is in his prime, the Zombie will have his hands full. While the Korean Zombie himself is likely past his physical prime, he's proven to be a crafty veteran, relying on his tricks and skills that he's acquired over the years. We've seen Volkanovski hurt on more than one occasion. If Zombie can draw up the right reaction he needs to land a knockout, it wouldn't be the first time it happened in the UFC title fight. The best thing about mixed martial arts is that we get to find out the moment the first bell rings.